Hey guys, welcome to another animation tutorial brought to you by LearnMaya1. In this tutorial we're going to be going over the breakdown pass and how significant that is to defining your animation. Kind of the style you're going to go with is determined in your breakdown pass. So let's go ahead and get started. This is an assignment I did. I'm still working on it actually. I'm in the polish stage right now, but this is the blocking pass you're seeing. And this was done, I think, 3 weeks ago. So I'll just play it for you real quick. Hopefully you guys can see it. And I don't know if you've ever seen the TV show Wipeout, but I kind of based it on that. You can see that in this particular pass, I'm in step mode because I prefer blocking in step mode. Some people like blocking already in spline, but I find I can get my animation down quicker and stronger if I do it in step mode. So you can see I just have my key poses or golden poses in here. There's not much going on. I have a takeoff, and then the middle of the jump, and then the land. And so there's not too many poses, just enough to get the story down so that the viewer can already tell, or my director, or in this case my mentor, can see what I'm going for in the blocking pass. So the blocking pass is pretty much, it sets the foundation for your animation, but the breakdown pass defines your animation. That's when you kind of put on your animation hat and really get in there and start adding your own flair to it. So I'm going to open up the breakdown pass I did, and I'll play it for you. See that I added some overlap in a lot of this stuff. You can already see I have the timing pretty much set in my breakdown pass. So I'm going to go to perspective here, and I'm going to show my curves, and you can see that right here, instead of adding overlap later on in the graph editor, it's a lot better to start adding overlap and thinking about overlap in your breakdown pass. So this pose right here, he's coming off the ball, and I knew that as he comes up and his body bends over, his upper torso is going to be dragging behind, right? Because his lower body is going to get there first. His hips will get to the bent position up here first as his back and head drag behind. And just adding that before you spline it is a good habit to get into. Also, you want to think about your arcs in the breakdown pass. So you want your hips to have good arcs, and you want your legs to have good arcs, so you want to start thinking about that. And a good kind of rule of thumb to think about when you're doing your breakdown pass, and to make the job of splining it a lot easier. If you're familiar with 2D animation, then you might know the term working in twos, which back in the day, studios like to work in twos because, well, it was a lot cheaper to work in twos. If you're not sure what that means, it means, I'll show you an example, I'll show you my timeline here. Right now, I'm putting my breakdown pass, and I'm trying to get a pose on every other frame. So that would be working in twos, but in the 2D sense, you would have an exposure or a movement happen every other frame. So you see that this movement is on frame 1 where he's standing right there. There's nothing happening on frame 2, and then it moves on frame 3, right? So in between, nothing happens. So that's kind of okay to have for faster movements. But in 3D animation, everything is on ones unless you have it on twos like this and you don't spline it out. But kind of a good rule of thumb is when you're doing your breakdown pass, and if you're doing it in step mode, which I am, you kind of want it to almost play back as if it's splined. You don't want to have really choppy moments. So in the jumps, it's kind of okay. There's, like in this flip, there's some spaces, and we can let the computer add those. But a lot of this movement, like up here, with the overlap in the arm, as he moves back, you want to get those in the breakdown. And let me show you my timeline down here. You can see that mostly I'm working on twos. You can see as he's going through this movement, it's pretty fluid already. And that just makes the job of splining it a lot easier, because what the computer does when you spline it, it interpolates the keys, or interpolates its own breakdowns in between your key poses. And technically, the computer does a perfect job. Mathematically it does, but that's not what you want, because the computer doesn't think about arcs or overlap. It just thinks about the best possible way to get from one key to the next, which will give you very linear, straight, no arced movements, all perfectly, all perfectly spaced out. So when you add your breakdowns on every other frame like this, you can control what the computer's doing, because it's okay to have the computer add one in between right here from between frame 3 and 5. Frame 4, the computer can add that in between. But if you're dealing with something, say you have a pose on frame 5 like this, and then a pose on frame 9, the computer's going to have to interpolate what it thinks is best to get from key 5 to key 9. So a lot of the time that will kind of give you either floaty looking animation, or just won't look very well, or it won't look very good. So you kind of want to watch out for that. Some of these movements I have holds, so there's nothing going on in between here. But later on I'll want to add moving holds. So that's kind of the premise of a breakdown pass. You want to get as much information into the computer as you can before you spline it. So you want to have your animation already set. In your breakdown pass, you should already be able to see if it's going to be a cartoony animation, going to be more realistic. So that's going to wrap it up for this tutorial. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.